As Overwatch keeps taking L's, so do its many professional players and streamers, and the ones in this video may be doing worse than the game itself. From losing out on tens of thousands of dollars because of one Weasley gentleman, to getting banned for saying the SH word, to being the richest unemployed loser of all time, I think Overwatch players have officially gone off the deep end. The first player of the video was destined to be the next great South Korean flex support before the second season of the Overwatch League. Myunbong was fresh off multiple dominant showings in Korean contenders while playing for all two of the two best teams of that era, WGS Armament and O2 Blast. As his 18th birthday was coming up, it was all but guaranteed that he would be joining the Overwatch League in the coming season, and every team wanted him. It was just like the Sparkle situation, where everyone thought he would just go to the team with the most money. I mean, this guy was that good. So when the team that was known for not wanting to spend any money on their players, the Boston Uprising, acquired him, everyone knew that something was up. See, the problem for the other 19 teams in the league was that they were treating Myunbong like a professional and respecting him and the wishes of the people around him by communicating with his agent before signing him, so his agent could make sure that he was getting a fair deal. Unfortunately for the young Zenyatta prodigy, his agent never told him what was going on and who was offering, so he simply thought no one was. And when Huck, the GM of the Boston Uprising, approached O2 Blast and Myunbong with a very low offer compared to what he was worth at that time, they just accepted it, thinking that was the best they could get. This really screwed over both him and the organization, as not only did he have to play for the Boston Uprising, he made about 3/4 as much money as he could have, but O2 Blast also got a lower buyout price, which kind of screwed them out going forward too. But sadly for Myunbong, this isn't even the worst it got for him in his career. If his time in the league started shaky, the end of his career was a 7.5 on the Richter scale. A couple of years had passed and eventually he ended up on the NYXL, who still had a pretty promising roster including Yaki and Jin, who had the Monstars steal all of their powers from them as soon as they left Florida Mayhem. All was going well with the Excelsior, and presumably, Myunbong was getting paid what he actually deserved at that time, until the signing of a new support player, Onsoonjae. Things have been weird for the NYXL all season, with higher than usual roster turn at all positions, with players getting sent from active to inactive and coaches moving around. All of this meant that it was not weird for another support player to be signed in the middle of the season, but with budget constraints coming down, it meant something had to give, and Myunbong, who was by this point a veteran in the league, was released by the organization. But let's back up. Communication with the organization was pretty spotty, and it was difficult for teams in general to communicate with players at times, as I've covered in almost all of my videos at this point. Well, it turns out, in this case, the communication was so bad, they forgot to tell Myunbong that he was released from the team. They fired a guy without even telling him. He literally found out he lost his job from a tweet from his team. Obviously he was shocked, especially as a foreign player playing in the US who needed this job to maintain a visa and stay in the country. As it turns out, the social team of NYXL released a statement before the management team had talked to him, and eventually, all was well. That was the end of Myunbong's career as a player, but now he is an observer in Korean OWCS. The man had a lot of impact, including incidentally decreasing the trust that players had in agents and probably losing them thousands of dollars along the way, but oh well. Unlike Myunbong, the next player of today's video wishes more than anything that he could keep a job and escape the evil clutches of Overwatch. Being the best European Overwatch player in the world and a famous streamer just isn't enough for some people. At every opportunity, Dafran has ruined his chances to be a pro player, a streamer, and just to play games that made him famous in general. He made his start as a humble Danish rapper in 2011. Quickly, he started playing competitive video games and was a prodigy of Counter-Strike, demonstrating masterful aim. It's also important to note, Dafran was a legendary employee of fast foods establishment McDonald's, where it is said that he now has his jersey number retired. When Overwatch came out, it was a perfect fit for him, and he quickly rose up the ladder, eventually becoming the best player in Europe, and signing to Team Selfless, with Sinatra, eventually karq, and emongg. Even then, being a fantastic player on a fantastic team, he just had to ruin it, having what the kids would call a Division 1 crash out. Selfless was one of the few teams that actually created a team house and made all the players move there. Dafran, being from Denmark, moved across the entire world to get to Georgia, so there was a lot of risk for him if the team didn't work out. And he sabotaged it all because his team was winning. So during a pretty unimportant tournament on a really close map that his team could have won, he did this.
Where did that happen? In spawn? What? Fat fingered? Or maybe he's just using it to get out there faster? I don't know. Why is he not with his team? Dafran?
That means the map is over, by the way.
Dafran has given up. Dafran's given up.
He threw the game in such an obvious way, it was impossible to ignore. It was okay though, he was so popular, all he really needed to do was apologize and move on. But Dafran's career might have been good if he did that. So instead he said, "I honestly do not give a shit what happens to me in my career. You can all go for yourselves." What a genius. Dafran was quickly suspended, and by the time he was unsuspended, his team had disintegrated and he was left without a job. But even immediately following his suspension, he made a new Smurf account, locked Torbjorn in every ranked game, throwing if someone said anything bad, and incited a revolution in ranked, offering rewards for his fans to throw streamers' games and starting the hashtag #ThrowForDafran. He also called this group the ISIS of Overwatch. Obviously he was banned for this on that account, and he disappeared from Overwatch for a while afterwards. He played Realm Royale for a while, remember that game? Winning $15,000 in the Keemstar tournament before returning to Overwatch once again. And once again, he was blessed with an opportunity that some people were grinding for years. He joined the Overwatch League for the new Atlanta Reign. and fortunately, things look good. He was a good player in GOATs, with that one famous Zarya clip we've all seen like 1,000 times. He was funny on the microphone and good personality for the league, but he only lasted 5 months. The major reason he quit was due to the pressure to perform, but another one that he talked about a few years later was his teammate Daka, who apparently refused to play if he didn't get whatever he wanted. Afterwards, he tried his luck with Valorant, where he was once again blessed by being one of the best players in the world without putting much effort in. During one of his first tournaments, however, he couldn't help himself and talked shit to an opposing player from the organization that was hosting the event.
Is a washed up trash Overwatch League player who had to retire because he's and then he comes to Valorant and he's there too. He has to use excuses like, oh, I gotta eat dinner, and then oh, you came too late because I have to go eat dinner. Oh, but in reality I'm just being a and I don't want to play against you because I'm scared to lose.
He received a lifetime ban from tournaments hosted by Solary and subsequently retired from Valorant and has never played the game since. In 2021, following all of his real life drama, Dafran decided to finally leave it all behind and become a farmer. He tried to go to school, but it wasn't for him, and eventually he took a job with another farmer practicing vertical farming and hydroponics, which are actually pretty cool. It was lucky for him, as he'd only just started his education while applying for internships, and only heard back from the one he actually wanted. Once again, given such a fantastic opportunity, Dafran did it for a while, got good, got bored, and quit. At least he lasted a little over a year that time. Later in 2024, he would once again quit streaming after his most successful year in history, to go drive a forklift. He was working 40 hours a week and presumably making alright money, but no. It was too hard, and he returned to streaming once again after only 4 months. This year, he's decided to become a help desk support person doing IT. I wish him all the best, and I hope that he can keep this job. I don't want to make it seem like I'm blaming a guy for trying things, but you need to have a little bit of follow through, especially when you're consistently failing upwards. The next player in today's video has only failed downwards, starting as one of the worst things a human can be, a Reinhardt one-trick, and eventually almost losing everything because he had a bit of a potty mouth. If you don't know Durpee by now, he's that guy in the PGE videos who plays Ryan. He's a professional player who played in Collegiate for a long time and for the Citrus series of teams in North America. He's a consistent grinder, so it came as a huge surprise to him one day when he found that his account had been banned with absolutely no explanation or reason why provided. As someone who relies on Overwatch for not only a job in what was then Contenders but also a college scholarship, this was a big deal. So it came as an even bigger shock when it was revealed by the legendary Blizzard CS account that he was banned for using the F and SH words. His account had been active for 7 years by that point, and he had to go on Twitter to find what he was banned for. He also had to be suspended from his teams, as if he played it could be considered ban evasion, and he may have been permanently banned from events. This was actually a pretty common occurrence at the time, as PJ and JH were on an absolute rampage. There's a massive document about how many players were banned or muted for doing really nothing in the game, but one player was banned because he dared to type yippee after winning a match, while another was suspended for saying GG. In fact, a year or so before this, I myself was muted for daring to unmute my microphone in a quick play game and speak with my compatriots. I'm not gonna lie, getting muted while you actively play is like God's greatest punishment. If you've ever been muted, you know that it legitimately feels like you've been trapped in a straitjacket inside a cell, watching the sun rise outside, knowing you are never gonna feel its warm rays ever again. If you want to feel joy and happiness in your life, you should like this video and subscribe for more enthralling Overwatch content. In a similar case to Durpee, another player also almost lost his whole collegiate career because he made a simple mistake of typing his teammate's username in the chat. What a fantastic moderation team Blizzard has. The thing about how Overwatch punishment system works is that it really doesn't. They want to make it seem like it's smart and advanced, but in reality, it's just a counter for how many times you've been reported. If you get reported enough, you'll be banned. When you're a Ryan one trick, you might get reported a lot, and for good reason. But since one tricking isn't bannable, they need to find an excuse for why you should actually be banned, leading to that excellent reasoning by JH. Right as this controversy started making a stir, things were looking good. Surely, with the backing of the community, he could get his account reinstated. Instead, his ban was changed from a long suspension to a legitimate permanent ban on his account. That reason, he typed WTF in chat. For context, one of the characters in the game wears a belt that stands for badass mother effer, and he was banned for making the same abbreviation as the game. Eventually, after the story got picked up more and more, he was thankfully unbanned, and once again, chained to his desk to play more Overwatch. Just a few days later, he once again received a permanent ban, and his case was instantly closed. This was because he asked, "How do you lose?" in the chat. As of last month, his main account is still banned. This whole saga started like a year ago. I really don't understand how this is possible, but it still is. And it's likely that it will never be unbanned at this point, as his ticket has been closed. I don't even know what to say, I just feel bad for him. Free my man Durpee, he ain't do nothing wrong except play Reinhardt. The next player was on the fast track to becoming the President of the United States. He was improving so quickly that nothing was out of the cards for him. I'm 37 went from complete nobody to a star in the Overwatch League in what felt like a few weeks. And it felt like a few weeks because it was a few weeks. He was a long-time ranked grinder and had been playing the game since this came out, but he just never decided to become a pro player. He was such a good player in ranked that even XQC accused him of cheating.
Frooger cheating. Tell me what's your main account. Cheating. Oh, dude, seriously? He's cheating. Dude, you're just cheating, dude.
One day, he just decided to lock in, and immediately joined a pretty good contenders team called Wavecheck, from which Valorant fans may recognize Boostio. He joined that team on March 14th, but unfortunately, they weren't good enough for him, so he moved on to the better team, Second Wind, on the 24th. At that time, Wavecheck were a team in Tier 3, and Second Wind were a team in Tier 2. It's kinda complicated, but there used to be 4 tiers: Open Division, Trials, Contenders, and Overwatch League in that order. It's unknown what Open Division team he played for, but he only lasted there for about a week. It came as a massive surprise, probably most so to the Tier 2 team that he had just joined, when just 3 weeks later, he left the team to join the Toronto Defiant in the Overwatch League. And when he got there, guess what? He was their best player. In his first game, the Defiant won 3-1, and I'm37 was the MVP. Eventually, he collected so many MVPs that he got an interview. He was a Korean player playing on a Korean team, so they sent the Korean interviewer, Danny. This is what happened.
설명 좀 부탁드릴게요.
So first of all, I started with joining Open Division team.
Secretly, the greatest speedrunner in Overwatch history had also speedran learning English, learning the language just days after arriving in Canada from Korea. This is a true story, do not correct me in the comments. I'm37's career went just as fast as it started, and after that short burst of great performances, he kinda fell off. After the season, he was dropped and he returned to the contenders grind. He eventually made it back to the league in 2021 for the Uprising, but unrelated to him, they sucked, and he returned to the ether, never to be seen again afterwards. He had a fantastic Meteoric rise, and honestly, that is good enough for me to call his career a success. I'm sure that he was hired at a normal job after this, and is now the CEO of the company, so many blessings be upon him. The next player is unfortunately too stupid to make any sort of progress in any facet of life. And if he wasn't so good at Overwatch, he probably could not have held down a job due to his big, thick skull. Yaki was at one point the best up-and-coming DPS player in the Overwatch League for the Florida Mayhem. He's an elite Pharah and Genji and kinda carried the Mayhem for a good stretch. He was so good at Pharah that at one point he made a bet with the caster Sideshow that he could get 20 kills before Sideshow could get 5 in a fair 1v1. While not a great Overwatch player, Sideshow was a pro in TF2, and so some thought he might actually be able to do it. The stakes were a 10-day contract with the Florida Mayhem for Sideshow, the bald superstar. Very little footage of this event survived sadly, but eventually, Yaki was on 19 kills and Sideshow was on 3, when he entered the Avatar state and hit the come-from-behind victory to officially join the Florida Mayhem, though he was later traded to the LA Gladiators to strengthen the DPS line. Funnily, Yaki eventually followed his path, where after a stint with the NYXL, he joined the LA Gladiators for what was a pretty promising team. This is where the trouble starts, as he played for one of the best leaguers of our generation, Hunter, who revealed some of Yaki's strange habits and gave us a look inside his mind. Here's a guest on the podcast Uncoachable, Funny Astro, to describe what living with Yaki was like.
Living with Yaki was such an experience, and he would knock on my door almost daily with some sort of like life problem that he hadn't yet figured out at the age of like 22. And it would just be like, how do I open this door? And I'm like, you twist the handle and you pull it. Yaki's like, oh, so smart. And he's like, thank you, Astro. I go back to my room. I'm like, I'm living in some crazy world.
As if that weren't enough, Yaki also had questions about how to and when he should clean a kitchen, how to open the blinds, how to close the blinds, and spent the team's off days watching YouTube shorts all day.
There was one off day where I remember he came out at the end of the day and I was like, oh, Yaki, what have you done today? And he's just like, I just watched YouTube shorts for 12 hours. I'm like, okay.
That's not even the worst part. Yaki lived in America for 4 years around primarily English speakers. As a linguistics student, I can tell you that learning languages is difficult, especially when you're learning one with a different script or that is completely unrelated to your native language. But the amount of learning you can do just through osmosis on a daily basis is pretty large, especially when living in an English-speaking country. To add to that, Yaki had a professional English teacher he would meet with twice a week every week for 4 years, and the man still didn't know English at a kindergarten level. Hunter recounts stories of trying to coach Yaki where he just sits there and stares blankly, not understanding a single thing. I understand having difficulty, but over the course of 4 years you should be able to learn something, especially with so many other foreign players in the league who learn English just fine. But that's okay, because now Yaki's done playing and is now living peacefully, hopefully not doing anything important for the survival of mankind. Subscribe.